My wife is very attractive, with an above-average sex drive, for which I'm thankful. Generally speaking, she's fairly modest. Sometimes, though, on date nights away from the kids, she can get quite kinky. As it happened on this warm May evening, under the colors of the sunset, we're both in the mood for some naughtiness. I had an idea to call her during her drive home and entice her imagination, knowing she was looking forward to an intimate evening together. On the speakerphone, I asked her what she was wearing. She replied, "I'm wearing my gray business skirt with those thigh-high stockings you like. Why?" I said, "I want you to put modesty on pause for now, babe, and follow my lead. Slowly pull your skirt up to your hips and start feeling yourself. Do it for me, okay?" She laughed at my forwardness, but looked around to make sure no one could see, adjusted her sunglasses, and pulled her skirt up. Slowly, she started massaging her thighs, working up to her panties. "Oh, ooh, that feels good, honey," she whispered. "Okay, tell me what to do next." The excerpt you just heard is from a Christian website called Marriage Heat. It's a collection of erotica written by and for Christian couples and Christian singles. And it is explicit. The couple of paragraphs that I just read to you are very tame in comparison to the rest of the three-part story, which includes many words that I am not allowed to say on YouTube. I'm going to tell you all about Marriage Heat, but first, if you're new to this channel, my name is Elly. I grew up in Christian fundamentalism. I was homeschooled and I was raised to be a dutiful helpmeet, both to my abusive patriarchal father and to my eventual future husband. I got married at 21 and I am now in the middle of a divorce from that marriage 11 years later. My most viewed video on this channel, Ex-Fundie Diaries, is about growing up in purity culture and how what I was taught about masturbation caused me a lot of shame. I was basically taught that it was satanic and evil and demonic. And these messages were so strong and extreme that not only would I try to avoid temptation outside of myself, not only would I try to control my thoughts, but I would also try not to look at my own naked body in the mirror for fear that it would turn me on. My own body. My parents taught me to save my first kiss for the altar, and I obeyed them. And I married the first person that I was in a relationship with, and we were not sexually compatible. But I didn't know that until after we got married, because I wasn't supposed to be thinking about sex, let alone experiencing it. But I quickly discovered in marriage that sex was much more important to me than to my spouse. And I was confused and disappointed after being taught for my entire upbringing that it was a promise, that if I saved sex for marriage, married sex would be mind-blowingly amazing. Basically, they made it sound like the Pleasure Town scene from the movie Anchorman.
Take me to Pleasure Town.
Oh, we're going there.
Oh.
I friggin' love you!
I friggin' love you back!
Help yourself, take a few.
As I shared in my masturbation video, I eventually did start masturbating a few years into my marriage after asking my husband for permission. But it took a really long time to overcome the shame that I felt after a lifetime of conditioning from purity culture. Even though I had already started doubting my faith and deconstructing the beliefs that I grew up with, I still felt really guilty for masturbating. And so I was doing a lot of researching, and that is how I found the website Marriage Heat. Most of the stories are written by married people describing their sex lives with their spouses, but some of the stories are fantasies written by Christian singles who are imagining their future marriages. and anyone can submit a story, and then they get reviewed and either accepted or denied, and if they're accepted, they are posted to the website for everyone to read. At the bottom of each post is a comment section, and the usernames are hilarious. They're like horny hubby and naughty wife. Personally, I find it hilarious to think about the writers of this very explicit erotica going to church on Sunday. Like, imagine Alice from the prayer group is secretly always wet for my soulmate 64, and nobody has any idea. There are many different categories of erotica to choose from, and the top of the website has a drop-down menu where you can jump to the topic that you want. Allow me to read them to you. They are in alphabetical order, so starting at the top. Advice needed. Advice offered. Anal play. Anniversary sex. BDSM and kink. Best sex stories. Birthday heat. Breast milk. Choosing faithfulness. Christian hot wives. Christian masturbation. Christmas heat. Communication. Conception stories. Do we really need those? I'm gonna say that we don't need those, or the breast milk one, but okay. Conflict resolution. Courtship stories. And if you're wondering if this is the kind of courtship that I grew up with in the Christian fundamentalist homeschooling movement, that's not what they mean. They basically just mean dating. Creation's wonder. Honestly, I have no idea what that means. Daytime heat. Nice. Getting a little afternoon delight there. Discussion questions. Erotica. I don't know why there's an erotica section because this whole thing is erotica, but okay. Fantasies. Fictional married sex stories. Food. Foreplay. Former swingers. Yes, there's a whole section where in their guidelines they talk about how former swingers can share their stories, but they shouldn't glorify the lifestyle that they used to live in. They have to explain that that was before the Lord, changed their life and made them monogamous. Just to clarify. Going out. Hand job. Heat while traveling. Her heat. His heat. Holy sex. Honeymoon sex. Hot games. Humorous. Husband heat. Ignite premium content. So you can pay for some extra content that I think has audio involved in it, I'm pretty sure. Interesting places. Is it okay? So this is where a lot of Christian singles go to ask their questions when they're feeling guilty. Like, is it okay that I'm fantasizing about like this girl at church or whatever? Kindle a flame. Kissing. Light bondage. Longer loving. Love. Making changes. Making time. Making up. Marriage heat announcements. Marriage massage. Marriage sex. Marriage sex blog. Marriage spark. Married erotica. Married sex. Married solo masturbation. Some of these categories seem very redundant, but okay. Massage. Mature sex. Ooh, mature. MH Team Doctor. I'm not really sure what that is, but I'm guessing they have a doctor on their team to ask questions. I guess that's good, as long as they're giving accurate information, which I doubt it, but anyways. Mutual masturbation. Oral sex. Outdoor sex. Overcoming sexual abuse. Oof, that's definitely a serious one there. Panties kickoff. Panties kickoff? What is that? Panties kickoff. Playful spanking. Pleasing a man. Pleasing your wife. Poetry. Polls. Pregnancy sex. Product review. Oh yeah, I think they're okay with like sex toys, quickies, quotes, relationship advice, reunion sex stories, role play, romance, series stories. Some of them write full-on fictional stories involving characters that they've made up with like part 1, part 2, part 3, etc. Sex advice, sex education. Again, read with caution. I do not trust the information on this website. Sex health, sex memories, sex playlist, sex tips, sex while traveling, sex writing, single masturbation. 69, spicing it up, teaching kids about sex, tech heat, through hardship, toys, vacation sex stories, Valentine's Day, vibrator, voyeurism. Yeah, they are actually okay with some versions of like stories involving stumbling across another couple and getting inspired by it and then going off and having sex because of it. Fascinating. We waited, and the very last one, weddings. So, as you can see, a very, very extensive list there. The thing that stands out to me the most about this whole Marriage Heat website is the loopholes. And I say this as someone who had a lot of loopholes in my own belief system growing up. I think it's pretty hard not to when your belief system is so rigid and full of rules. So let me give you a couple examples of these loopholes that I've noticed on Marriage Heat. So they're against pornography, and they offer their erotica as sort of a holy alternative, something that the Lord supports to bless Christian marriages. But every single story on the website has an accompanying picture, and it's a whole bunch of nudity. They do not show genitalia, but they show bare butts, bare breasts. Like, how do they justify that? It just blows my mind. But again, like I said, I had all sorts of inconsistencies in my own belief system and, contradictions. So I get it, but it's still pretty wild. Another loophole I noticed is that courtship stories category, which is basically a bunch of stories that married couples are sharing about their dating days, where when they were engaged, they managed to make it to the altar as technical virgins, but they did pretty much everything else that they could get away with. And they talk about how it was a beautiful expression of their love from the Lord. That just doesn't really make much sense. But I mean, when I was dating my ex, before we got married, we didn't kiss on the lips, but we kissed each other's necks sometimes. I've never shared that on this channel, but yeah, that was a loophole. That was something that I did, and I felt very guilty about it. And I would repent for it, and I would make us like put up better boundaries, and so it was something we kind of went in and out of because it was so tempting, but I felt like it was ultimately wrong and that I was slipping up. And here's the thing that bothers me about these courtship stories, where they still made it to the altar with their virginity intact, and that's all that ultimately matters. That's totally fine if that is their individual choice as a couple of what they do and don't want to do with each other. But it's the judgment of others making different choices that I have a problem with. And Marriage Heat literally says on their website, we don't judge other views. But here's why that's not true. They believe that a monogamous marriage between a cisgender man and a cisgender woman is God's holy design, and that anything outside of that is sin. Here's what they have to say about the purpose of their website. Marriage Heat exists to help build and support a culture of hot biblical monogamy. We ask that all maintain a Christ-centered mindset because Marriage Heat is a mission field. We want to show the love of Christ through all we share, and Marriage Heat is an opportunity to broaden the depth and breadth of understanding of how a holy, exclusive, Christ-centered marriage can look. Whew, that was a sentence. Above all, give glory to God. As spouses, we are blessed by Him to have each other to share the purity of the marriage bed. He created sex. He made all the nerve endings, pleasure centers, and biochemical cascades, along with the ability to recognize and stimulate them. He gave us language, our imaginations, and creativity to keep things fresh and interesting. Keep that in mind as you are writing and responding. Let's be sure that those who read know who we thank for it all, and that we remain obedient, not just because He knows best, but because we love Him. So that's why I have mixed feelings about this website. On one hand, I think it's great that it is expanding what Christians are allowed to do. It's helping them get off. The fact that they celebrate and condone masturbation is in and of itself revolutionary when you grew up the way that I did. But it obviously excludes and condemns many different people and many different ways of life. And that I do not appreciate or agree with. I would love to hear your thoughts about Marriage Heat in the comments below. But before I go, I actually have a couple of quick announcements. And the first one is that I have a Patreon. I have gotten some questions in the past asking if I would ever make a Patreon. And at the time, I didn't really feel ready, but I feel ready now. And I've actually decided to move the majority of my Ex-Fundie Diaries content going forward onto Patreon. Over the past 6 months or so, I've noticed that talking about Fundie-related topics has felt pretty taxing for me. It takes a lot out of me these days, and it feels pretty vulnerable. And so I feel more comfortable with the idea of sharing more on Patreon instead of uploading to YouTube where just anyone can come across it. So thank you again to everyone who has asked if I would ever make a Patreon. I have one now, and I will put a link to that down below if you'd like to check it out. The other announcement that I have is that I have decided to make another channel as well. This is going to be a casual, personal outlet for me just to share little life updates, vlogs, random thoughts, just anything that I would like to share that doesn't fit into my Ex-Fundie Diaries content. I am calling it Elly Trevison, which is my name. Trevison is my family last name that I gave up when I got married because of patriarchy reasons. And I've regretted that for a while, so by using my family last name, I feel like I'm kind of reclaiming it a little bit, so I'm pretty excited about that. And I will put a link to that down below as well. Thank you so much for watching, and Happy New Year! Bye!